What's happening, guys? 21st of March, another Friday on us. And, as we know how Fridays work in the trading world, sometimes traders go to lunch and they just don't come back for the rest of the day. So then it's left to, whatever happens with whoever's left to move the market. So we may not see a whole hell of a lot today. We do see some downward movement. But what we had this week was the most important thing had to do with the Federal Reserve doing their discussion on interest rates. And they left rates unchanged. And there is some sort of expectation based on what people are reading in their dot plots, which is predictions from the various different members of the panel at the Fed, that rates federal fund rate will be lower in 2025 to 2026. Now, where that lands, we don't know. And we also know that every time they've lowered it hasn't helped interest rates, push things up every single time. So we'll see how things pave out at this point. But what was the one thing we were looking for was Powell said yesterday that, number one, he said anyone who feels that they can predict what is next is not being honest, as the Fed is struggling to determine that itself. So anybody says they know what's going to happen or wait for rates, all that stuff, when the Fed says we have no idea what's going to happen, we're still trying to determine that for ourselves as far as the economy is concerned and inflation. These guys are full of crap. The only thing that I can possibly see is the history of trades, which is what we go over here, and how that specific line seems to be a barrier. Here's a predicted barrier at one point, but then it has proven that that was fairly accurate. Now, is it 100% accurate? No, but it has proven to be one of those ceilings that we're just not getting above. And we'll go over that here in a little bit. Now, one of the things that they did talk about is the intent to slow the Treasury runoff, which will pump money into the financial system, essentially reducing their quantitative tightening. So what they're doing with quantitative tightening was when they put money into the markets. So this is the Fed had taken money from the Treasury in 2009, from 2009 up until 2021, and they were investing into U.S. Treasuries and investing into mortgage-backed securities and other corporate bonds. And then they would take the money they'd make off of it and reinvest that. Well, what they started doing with quantitative tightening is they stopped reinvesting it and stopped creating more capital to put into it. They pretty much just let everything ride. And as payments come in, interest comes in, they're banking it, right? Paying back the treasury, I guess, or keeping it for themselves, for all I know. Now they're saying, well, we're probably going to ease off of that. Maybe that means they're going to be reinvesting some of that interest. Now, that's trillions of dollars that was invested. If they're doing that, it could pump more money in the system. But we also have to remember there's a demand on it. So as the rates may drop, because if let's say we do have money going to the specific mortgage-backed securities pools, and we see that flow of money get bigger. Well, if there's a amount of demand sitting on the sidelines waiting to pull from that, it'll start pulling from immediately and keep that probably at close equilibrium. But we also know that investors themselves, other people right now, they're keeping the price of mortgage-backed securities afloat. They're looking at other things too. One of the things they're looking at happens to do with the jobs report. Now, right now, jobless claims are posted at 223,000 new filings, which is matching what the expectations were. But the continuing claims jumped up to 1.892 million, which was revised and above the 1.859 million from before. So people are still struggling to find jobs. The jobless claims continue to grow. So that being the situation, I think they're only going to get bigger as we start seeing people leaving the public sector. And are they going to find jobs in the private sector? It might take a while. We have to create demand for those people that are not going to be working for the federal government anymore. So that being the situation, job reports could kind of suppress some of that movement when it comes to bonds. So we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. So let's take a look at the bonds today, see what we've got. They're pretty flat. We have stayed within the same range for a little bit of time here. So it looks like we have been in this range since February 25th. We're coming up on 1 month of trading all within a specific range. And if you look at the measurement on this from the range of opens to closes, we're looking at somewhere in the range of 69 basis points, which means whatever rate you would have had at that point, you're approximately a 0.5 to 5/8 in cost fluctuation of wherever that rate would be, maybe 1/8% differential in rates themselves. That's all we've seen over the last month. So when you're seeing the news saying, hey, rates have gone down or rates have gone up, and you're like calling us, want to say, how much did they move? Is very, very nominal. But the news wants something to talk about. And interest rates going down is definitely something they enjoy talking about. So just knowing that alone, this small movement in here has not been enough for you to get too shaken up about what's going on in the interest rates. Stay the course, focus on what you want to get, decide what your goals are, decide what direction you want to go when it comes to your investment business, find the properties that fit within it, and move forward. If you're waiting and trying to shop around and find those rates, guys, might as well just be driving around town and find out who's going to have the cheapest pair of shoes. And you might save $5, but you burn a few $100s in gas trying to save that $5 on the shoes. Let's just focus on the end goal and not what's right there. So thank you. We'll talk to you guys on Tuesday.